Hello, this is Brian, and I am a citizen here in Pomona, California. And today is voting day for national as well as local initiatives and politics and measures that faces us here in the United States. And I wanted to get on the air because I didn't realize a couple of things. I was looking over the ballots because I'm getting ready to go vote this morning, and my wife this evening when she gets home from work, and so I wanted to kind of go over what the initiatives were, and so that way I can make sure I can inform her, and we can, we talked about our national, nationally wise, but we didn't talk about our local politics and some things that are going on that faces us here in Pomona. I grew up here in Pomona. Also, I'm a business owner here, as well as have a nonprofit here, and I also work here in Pomona as well. And there's a couple measures that I want to talk about that we need to address and make sure we understand what it's about, because my wife and I, we ride around town, and there are things that there's some big banners outside on yes, on why, and I wanted to talk about that because matter of fact, what happened was we ended up having a town hall meeting at one of the churches I work with, which is Pilgrim Congregational Church in Pomona. There's some folks that put together a town hall with both sides, one for yes on why and no on why, and I missed it because I had to work somewhere else, and my wife attended, and and she told me afterwards about what the initiative was about. And I go, that doesn't make sense because there's, let me read the initiative, and then that way, you're informed as well. So it says, why Pomona City General Municipal Election Measure Y, vote either yes or no. And it says, shall the city charter be amended to require that at least 10% of the city's annual unrestricted general purpose revenues be allocated to children and youth programs and services by fiscal year 2030-2031. In addition to the current funding, and I'm going to say that again, in addition to the current funding for the children and youth programs, and to establish a city department of children and youth to administer funding for said programs and services. And then it goes to who the supporters and the non-supporters. And I am totally against it, and the reason being is that the city has allocated funds in the city through a bunch of different means that they have, and they also have a master plan that includes the youth and children ministry. I mean, excuse me, the youth and the children and family. And so to earmark money that's going out of the general fund when they already have money in the general fund is a challenge because of the money's, all of our cities are hurting for money, including the city of Pomona. And so the money goes to, that's going to take money from the fire department, that's going to take money from the police department and other services that we need in Pomona, because there's already a shortage as it is. And so let me say that, number one. Number two, the nonprofits that are opposed, I mean, they're for this initiative, this measure. They've never had that kind of money because it's millions of dollars that they're talking about. One, and two, that in the cases of these nonprofits, they're not showing outcomes of how, if the money went to their associations, how this money is going to be, how they've been able to use the money they do have to be able to help the children and youth in our city. And so I think it's a challenge when yes, it sounds better when you can do it yourself, but at the same time, if you work with the cities and you come up with become a part of the solution versus always being a part of the problem, that something would change. So I wanted to say that up front, or say that about this initiative, that they already earmarked, if you looked at it as I read it to you, that it's for, that they already get money. So it's not like they don't have money. They already have a budget and they're using it well. Not to mention they're partnered with the Boys and Girls Club, which is now the club. They're partnered with the Parks and Recreation, which also has programs and money that they're using and have facilities that they're using. So I would think that you would partner with them first and foremost, because they have a budget, and they could be, and as a nonprofit, you could be written into their budget and written into, when they go after grants, to go after more money, that their services that each other can provide. So Yes, it sounds great. And yes, when you say yes for the kids, and it sounds great because our kids are in need of services, as well as in our schools and so forth. But I think the challenge is there has to be a better way where you just blanketly give this group of people money and not be able to know where the money's going, who's going to be fiscally responsible for the money, what programs they have in place, and not to mention what track record do they have? And part of what they were saying was they're going to get kids that are from 16 to 25 to be on this board as well. They're going to put together a board of commissioners, put together this administration that's going to help oversee the services and funds. But the problem with that is that kids that are under 25, most of them are not in college yet. Most of them are in high school yet. They're barely in high school, and so we need to be working, backing up and getting them right, putting on something to say how are we going to spend the money. Well, yeah, they're going to spend the money on Nike shoes and do other stuff rather than the core services that kids need. They don't know what they need because they're still kids, they're still young people, and so not putting nothing away. There are some brilliant kids, and I'm not saying that at all, but for the most part, they're still learning how to be men and women and what it is to be in life and what it is to be a part of a community and so on and so forth. And how are they going to know, they can say, hey, let's go to Disneyland and become, and use the money for Disneyland, or going to colleges and that, go see colleges, which is not a bad thing. And as nonprofits, we can do it. But I think ultimately, I was talking to M. Joyce, who is also, she's an opponent of it, and talking to her, she was sharing a little bit more insight about it, and she's grown up in Pomona. She's a local politician that she's never been for government or anything like that, but she's very proactive in the city of Pomona. And so when I was talking to her this morning in our conversation, I go, man, let me post something real quick and talk about it for a moment, because I think taking 10% of the gross of something, that means other service is going to go lacking because of Measure Y if it goes through. So I'm going to say no on it, and then rethink the master plan if the master plan isn't working. Sit down and revisit the master plan, because there is a master plan for Pomona that includes youth and children. Revisit that and have that conversation with them and say, okay, let's do this and this and this and try this on a smaller scale. And the Bible says, be fruitful over a few, that he'll make you rule over many. So if you're not faithful of the resources that you have now, taking on more money, it's almost like, it's almost like saying how lottery winners, like that, how does that saying goes, that 90%, it's probably 98%, lottery winners are broke, in the first couple of years once they win the lottery, and that's because their mindset is not right. They got the money. Money doesn't change things. Is how you are faithful with the money that you do have, and the resources that you do have, and the programs that you do have. That success. You look at, there's several big nonprofits that are out there. They're doing great things, that they get money on a national scale and on a local scale, as well as through the city as well. It's like the Goodwill Industries. They have youth programs and children programs, and they get tons of money to be able to provide services in our Pomona. And some work and some don't, because based upon a whole bunch of different factors. So I just wanted to say that up front, that I believe in. And go back and look on the ballot and look at and think about it. 10% of the gross, when they're already. It's not like they were getting no money. There's money there. They just need to reallocate it better. If that's the case, let's look at what they do have and how we can take that money that we do have to make better services and for our youth and our children. Okay, that's number one. There's another measure, and this one kind of upsets me just as much as this one. It's called UU, and this is a Pomona Unified District School Special Election Measure UU. Let me read that, and then I'm going to talk about that for a second. Then I'm going to get out of here. This is going to be a little bit longer than I thought it was going to be, but I wanted to talk about it. And if you want to chime in, going to, I can either let you into the, if you want to talk about it and you're in agreement or disagreement with me, I'll put a link that you can come into the room. We can talk about it. Or you can put it in the comment section that you agree or you disagree, or yes or no. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna love you either way. And if you know something that I don't know, on both measures, then great. Let me know, because I'm going to go vote this morning. So if you let me know what I need to know, and then that way I can go do the right thing, because I don't want to do the wrong thing either. But based upon what I heard from the people that went to the meeting on at our church, and then two, what I read on the ballot, it doesn't make sense. So it's no on Y, and then there's Measure U, which is the Pomona Unified District Special Election Measure. It says, and I'll read this one next. It says, no, I'm not going to read everything because the money wise, it doesn't matter. It says Pomona Unified School District Classroom Repair and Safety Measure. And this is to upgrade classrooms, labs, vocational, career, technical education spaces, repair leaky roofs, deteriorated class restrooms, plumbing. Basically, this is one to repair the classrooms in the schools. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm against it for a couple of reasons. One, because I live in Pomona, they tore down three, at least that I know of, three elementary schools in our area, and they weren't in ruins. Matter of fact, they were relatively new schools. All three of them. One's on Gary, one's on San Antonio. Is it San Antonio? Anyway, doesn't matter. But yes, San Antonio, and the other one, I don't remember what it is, but they tore them down. Oh, the other one is over on the west side of town, off of Mission Avenue, Mission Boulevard. Over there, just before the 71, there was a adult school, but it was owned by the Unified Pomona Unified School District. And so they tore them down, and I'm like, going, well, why would you tear them down and not have the resources to build them up again? They didn't have asbestos because they're newer buildings. Now the one on the west side may have, possibly because of how old the building was, and so I can kind of halfway see that one. But the other two, the one in on San Antonio was less than 10 years, probably 20 years new. So it had all the latest technology at the time. It was modular, so that way they can shift it around and do some things, but they tore them down. So, and then they keep buying properties, and our kids are not there. Our educational system is broken. So I think if we look at what our school districts are doing or not doing with our kids, the classrooms and disrepair is one part. That they just bought a mall. They bought the mall in Pomona. That's probably 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. They bought the building across the street. So they got properties all over the city of Pomona that they've upgraded, because that's their administrative offices and so forth. So those aren't the ones that are in disrepair. It's the ones that are the schools that are there, which are that if they spent their money more wisely and they educated our kids the way they're supposed to, then the money would be there. So for them to also all of a sudden try to get extra money to be able to, they want $22 million or so in some bonds, $385 million in bonds, at legal rates, and levying $60 per 100,000 in assets. So they're trying to leverage some things to do it, and not realizing that we're not even putting that into the kids. And I think if we looked at it, maybe if we have to close a school and move them, or could have sent those kids that are in the elementary school, the one that they tore down, which were better looking schools and better schools, and done something with it. They closed Palomar's as a middle school. So we're not losing kids. It's not that we're, the more, we don't have enough kids for the classes. We do. They're not looking at they have an agenda that we don't know of, and we're not a part of that. Part of that because, to be honest, my kids are grown. So I'm somewhat removed from the school district. But when it comes to raising money, when I see what they're not doing in our city with our kids, and our kids are not graduating with the right grade level that they're graduating at, or promoting at the right grade level, they're just passing people through with the agenda that they have, that we have to look at not just giving blind checks to folks anymore, that we have to be more proactive in making sure that the funds that they do have, they're using them in the right way. Knocking down buildings, and they're just sitting there in disrepair, looking crazy, and an eyesore in the city. And the city's not going to pull them to the carpet because they're part of the city in a sense. So I think, and they control, they're one of the larger landowners in our city. So they're not going to really blast them like they would somebody else and make them pull up to the curb to do the right thing. So on these two measures, and the other ones, I can go into other details about the other ones, but these two are the ones about budgeting, as far as getting more money for services that they're not even doing right, and they're not being faithful over the money that they do have. To get more, to throw more money at it, I don't think is wise. And so I'm saying no on measure Y, and no on you. And those are the two local issues that we need to be dealing with. If you haven't voted, please vote. And if you haven't taken a look at those, take a look at them. I'm telling you why I'm saying no, even though the supporters for the Unified School District is the mayor and some other people, but again, the challenge is they've, the U.S., Pomona Unified School District people and all the people that are in alignment with them. The challenge with that is that they've not been faithful of the money that they do have. And so I think that we have to take a hard look at how our cities are spending their money, especially if you have a parent. If you're a parent and you got kids in school still, start being proactive. Start going to this, to the school board meetings and that kind of stuff to see what they're teaching and what they're doing, getting ready to do in their schools, because they talked about it before they did it, put it on the initiative, and they were able to pass it through because we were asleep. So we need to wake up and put ourselves in a position to be able to be an asset to our community and pray for our city as well. If you live in Pomona, pray for the city of Pomona, because, just like every other city, we're having some challenges. And these two measures that are coming up will pull money out of our budgets that we don't need it, but we need to be doing some other things that will help our community be a better community. So God bless you. Thank you so much. Again, no on why and no on you.